Hi friends, welcome back. Today we are making my perfect dream fall coffee shop. I'm going to be using the Concord and Ninth window shop pop-up dies as well as the flower shop add-on dies, a couple of these little things, but to really change it into what I'm looking for, we're going to be also adding in these honeybee stamps pumpkin spice cart add-on. So I don't even own the honeybee cart. I just knew that these coffee shop accessories were going to be the perfect thing to go with all of this Concord and Ninth stuff. So keep that in mind. If you have one of these pop-up shops or even the cart from Honeybee, don't be afraid to look at different brands and see size-wise what things are going to overlap. Because no brand is making what I am currently searching for. So I, made it myself. Look at all of these scraps we're going to be using up. I'm very excited about that. I also grabbed my Studio Katia acetate sheets. We're going to use that for the window glass panel. But how exciting that we get to use up some scraps today. That whole pile came from my scrap bin. The first step is going to be pulling the dies out, setting everything aside. I did have to speed this up a good bit, guys, because this card took almost 2 hours. I took my sweet time making it, but it did take almost 2 hours. So this is heavily sped up. I'm grabbing all of the dies that I need from that first window, pop-up shop pop-up. You know what I mean, from that first die set. So I have the outside building, the columns, the door, all of the trim that's going to go on the front. I did this by die set. So that I wouldn't get anything mixed up and I wouldn't misplace any of my dies. So I did everything that I needed from that first largest die set. You can see I have these little trays. This is a star tray from Twiddler's Nook. I love them. I have a couple of them. But I have all of my pop-up pieces up there at the top. Then I'm going to pull the crate, the flower pot, and I'm also going to grab some smaller ones, but I'm not going to end up using them. So we're going to do one flower pot that I think I even forgot to show putting on there because it actually got stuck to the bottom of my paper cutter. And I found it afterwards and added it back on. So you'll see me assemble it and then it won't be there. And then at the end picture, it will be there. But so I'm just working one die set at a time, cutting all of my little pieces out. This is definitely tedious, but it's 100% worth it. I love these kinds of cards, and you could also definitely do this in chunks. This is something where you could do all of your die cutting one day, all of your inking the next day, and then assembling whenever you're ready. I love having these little star trays or little pinch pots so that I can keep all of my like pieces together. It just helps me feel a little more organized. So all of those flower bits, everything that came from the flower shop die set is in that smaller star. And then you can see I have a larger clear pinch pot that I think is just from like the dollar section of Target. That is going to get all of my pumpkin spice cart add-ons. We're going to be cutting out the little like leafy banners or pennants or whatever they are. We're going to cut that twice. I'm cutting all of the pumpkins, a ton of the leaves because I wanted to be able to put those on that little streamer banner, leafy banner. We're going to also cut a lot of the little coffee bits, and those are going to go inside the shop. So again, same thing, just going through, cutting out all these little pieces off of my scraps. And then using some washi tape just to hold everything in place and running them through my die cutting machine. If you are like me and you are like a huge Gilmore Girls fan, or even like the old school Hocus Pocus or 90s like Halloween Town fan, this to me is the perfect kind of New England fall mom and pop coffee shop. Where they'd be able to kind of like put out their own little decorations and have fun, just kind of getting into the fall spirit. So This is not based on a real place, but in my mind, it is the perfect shop. This panel I'm cutting is also from my scrap stash. That's going to be the inside of my shop. That's going to be my back wall, the main panel of my card. So to start my assembly, I'm taking a side folding A2 size card base. I'm adding that textured pattern paper cardstock to it. We're going to start getting our door ready. I cut a panel the size of the door with vellum. I like this kind of frosted glass feeling on the window panes on this door front, and having the clear acetate on the actual window panels. I think it looks really fun. I'm also going to start kind of scoring up my outer wall, the pop-up wall there, and the roof. I cut a piece of the matching pattern paper that our whole back wall is out of to add that behind the vellum so that you could see where that pattern is kind of seen through the vellum, kind of cloudy. You definitely don't have to do that step. I just thought it was nice to have something to kind of help that vellum pop against all of that dark. I'm going in with frayed burlap and ground espresso for all of my ink blending, just kind of adding some texture and helping to define the different layers of all of my pieces. So I'm starting out with the columns, and then with the frayed burlap. Anything that was lighter got frayed burlap, anything that was darker got ground espresso. So the wood, those darker brown wood panels that are going to go on the front under the window, all of those will be done with the darker ink. So I'm just working kind of one element at a time, going in with my liquid glue and getting all of this stuff ready to add to the front of my shop. I think that these do come together pretty easily. There's not many pieces where I was like, ooh, where is that supposed to go? And I love that you can have the windows on the left or the right of your door, just depending on how you choose to like align and flip your that pop-up card bit. So I added this kind of extra detailing under the window. I added my door into place, and then the door also has this extra detail to go on the front at the bottom. So we added that after inking up the edges just to help it pop. And I had found some gold metallic scrap paper. So I cut the mail slot and the door handle from that metallic gold, and I think that's really fun. Just a little extra shine. These are going to go on that longer wooden panel under the window. Most of that's going to get covered up by our crate, but I think these has so much detail, and layering it all really helps it to feel more realistic. So I have no regrets about adding it, even though you don't see a ton of it. This long thin trim is going to get added to the bottom and the top of the window, just kind of creating that sill effect that I think is just really fun. And again, another little detail to help kind of frame out that window space. I'm creating this extra scrap that I had. I just cut it into a rectangle on my own with my paper trimmer and created my own counter for inside the shop. Same thing, I'm adding a little bit of white cream, kind of off-white cardstock in there. That's going to be our countertop. The Honeybee Stamps die set has this really sweet little coffee sign. So we're going to add that to the front door. And I am going to go back in with Copics at the end just to make sure that the coffee impression is a little more legible. I had 2 orange pumpkins and 1 kind of cream colored pumpkin. So I'm going in with my ink blending and just adding some ink details to all of those, and also shading in the stems for all 3 with the same green marker. And then this took a while, so I'm going to kind of speed through and jump over some. But the leaves, I just went in with little circular motions and a tiny detail brush and added some shading to the leaves. To do those banners, you just add a tiniest dot of glue, and I have a embellishment wand here that helps to keep your fingers from getting, super in the way or gluey. And I'm adding my leaves across, and I made sure that my color pattern kind of went continuously from one to the other, and we'll adhere those onto the roof in a little bit. And I'm warning you now, I do it incorrectly and then have to pull it off and do it again, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'm assembling the crate now, and then once it's assembled, adding some shading just to the edges. The crate is going to hold 2 of our pumpkins, and this is me prepping that outside little potted plant that I'm going to forget to adhere for a little bit, but you'll see it in its place at the end. And I just love these little flowers. I just cut the flowers from yellow, but these give those kind of like strong mum vibes to me, and I think that they're absolutely perfect for this kind of fall scene, because I know I've seen little mum planters out everywhere already. And the teeny tiny little circles, you can kind of just pop those into place. With my acetate sheet, I just kind of created a little clip in the end for each side of where it needed to be trimmed down, and then use my wire trimmer to cut that the rest of the way, so I didn't have to worry about, it being too crooked or something and not being the right size. I added that from the back into my window frame. And now I'm adding my pumpkins to the crate. So I'm going to add a little glue and work from the back. So I have that one smaller pumpkin and the cream pumpkin, and we're also going to tuck a leaf in there. We're going to also add some foam to this to pop it up and give it just a little bit more dimension. And then that last pumpkin is going to get foam and a little bit of glue so it can layer right onto the outside of that crate as well. I just love how this turned out. It gives so much dimension. I think it's really fun. And then I had lots of room to tuck even more of those leaves around. I added the little black cat, like kind of just peeking in the window. And I love that the coffee shop has like a little menu. I just kind of kept holding up my window into place to make sure that everything was going to get seen. I have this little coffee carafe, so that got added in. And I cut enough to have 2 of these kind of to-go cups. I'm going to attempt to make them look a little bit like Starbucks cups, even though this is clearly not a Starbucks coffee shop, just to help it be kind of instantly recognizable. So I added both of those down flat with liquid glue, and I popped up the little mug with the tiniest bit of foam. So we have like a for here cup and then 2 to-go cups. This is me adding that Copic marker, going with that E44, just to outline the coffee and the little details that are around it. Now to add this to my card base, you add some double-sided tape. It's the easiest way, to the top and the bottom sections. And then this was when I realized that I adhered my banners upside down, like to the wrong part of the roof. So they would be like sticking up into the sky. So to fix this, it took me a second. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I removed the adhesive and got that bottom panel lined up on my card base. You take the tape off of the top and kind of fold everything over, make sure that it's in the right spot before you kind of commit, and squish that down. So now you get that really fun pop-up. To cover these areas where I had kind of leftover glue and paper stuck from my banner, I'm just going to trim a little piece of brown cardstock down. It's the length and width of that top upper section, so I'm just going to pop that into place. No one will ever know. It just now looks like a roof with an awning. It looks a little more separated, but I think it's still so cute. I added the double-sided tape on the top part that's going to get adhered to the card, and then repositioned my leaves in place. I would recommend doing as much decorating to the inside, outside, and roof before you assemble as possible, because once it's all assembled, it is hard to get in there and manipulate things. So this is my completed fall coffee shop. I think it's so cute. I'll show you in a second how everything folds down completely flat, so it's easy to ship. But if I saw this coffee shop walking on the street, I would instantly want to go in. They'd have all my money. So I hope this encourages you to mix and match with different die sets to create a scene that you truly love. I hope that you guys have the most amazing week, and as always, happy crafting.